Hello everyone, hope everyone's having a great week. In the Torah portion this week, we read of the last of the 10 plagues of the slaying of the firstborn of Makos Bechoros. And during the plague, when all of the death took place around the entire land of Egypt, the Torah tells us that there was no noise made by the dogs, that the dogs were silent, that even though when there's death and destruction, typically that would elicit dogs making a lot of noise. But the Torah says that during this time, the dogs didn't make any noise whatsoever. And the Torah says, our sages tell us, that as a reward for this, we say later in the Torah that if an animal becomes not kosher, if an animal becomes a treifa, we give that meat to the dogs. That since the dogs didn't make noise, and they could have barked tremendously during the slaying of the firstborn that could have jeopardized the Jewish people's safety by awakening the Egyptians. As a reward for this, we say that if any meat becomes not kosher, we give that to the dogs. I was in Tucson this week, and I went to the Chafetz Chaim synagogue, and I heard an amazing question asked by Rabbi Becker, who's the rabbi of the synagogue. And Rabbi Becker asked, how is it that an animal would become a treifa? How would an animal become not kosher? Most likely what would happen is that the animal would have been attacked by a different animal. Take a sheep. A sheep would be attacked by wolves. It would rip it into shreds. And the sheep would become a treifa, would become not kosher. What caused the sheep to be attacked by these wolves? What allowed the sheep to be vulnerable to this attack? Rabbi Becker suggested it must have been because the dogs who were supposed to be watching the sheep didn't do a good job. They were lax in their ability to safeguard and protect the sheep. And that's how this animal, this sheep, became a treifa and was killed. And Rabbi Becker quoted the Tosfos, who explain a beautiful thing, that the Torah is specifically giving the dogs the meat in this particular case, even though it's the dog's fault, almost, that the sheep was killed. It's the dog's irresponsibility that this animal became a treifa, became not kosher. And yet, despite that, the Torah says specifically to give the dogs this not kosher meat. And Rabbi Becker explained a beautiful idea that we see from this concept in the Torah, that oftentimes we get so down and critical on people when they make mistakes, and we say, you're good for nothing, you're not doing a good job. And the Torah is teaching us a powerful lesson, that even in the moment where the dogs are being irresponsible and being lax in their ability to secure the safety of the sheep, Dafka specifically in that particular case, the Torah says, give this meat to the dogs. Because even though they may be lax, even though they may have fallen and slipped and made a mistake, still we reward them, and still we say to them, we appreciate what you did for us when our forefathers left Egypt. And so too, when we see people around us, our friends, our family, that may be making mistakes in our eyes, that may be slipping, we should learn from the Torah to constantly give them to support, to constantly reward them. And if we do that, we'll create a feeling of unity and peace amongst all of us. Shabbat Shalom.